Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to be doing a breakdown of The Batman trailer number 2. And this is the one that came out at DC Fandom over last weekend. I've watched this trailer more than a few times. I'm really excited for this movie. And I'm going to say this up front. This was a really, really good trailer. Now, with this trailer, we really do get to see a lot more of our major characters. We get to see a lot more of Robert Pattinson in the Batsuit and a little bit more of him out of it. A lot of Zoe Kravitz as Selina Kyle, and we also get to see more of Colin Farrell's Penguin. Now the trailer actually starts out with what looks like the police apprehending Riddler at some diner somewhere, and they take him away, and then you see that he's drawn like a question mark in the froth of his coffee, which is kind of interesting. I know what this movie is going for. It's a bit more of a, I don't want to call it an artsy Batman film. But there are going to be some of those scenes like that, which I actually kind of like that. I like it when they take some of the Batman villains a bit more seriously, because it makes the stakes feel a lot more realistic. But we also get to see a lot more of Robert Pattinson in that bat suit too, and he's really the majority of the trailer after we get past the Riddler scene. Because after we do that, then we start going into all these different semi-quick cuts. We see a lot of shots of Selina Kyle. There's a few shots of her wearing a few different wigs. I think they might be going for the angle where either she's a stripper or a hooker in this, kind of like what she was in Batman Year 1. Even though this is technically, I guess, a Year 2 story. We get to see Robert Pattinson's Batsuit in some hard lighting for a few shots, which I really did enjoy. I like the design of that Batsuit. I like the way it fits him. I like the way he looks and acts in it. The combat that was shown was, again, I thought was very good. There's a few little gadgets and stuff that you see during the course of it. We get a little bit more of an expanded look at that scene where he's fighting the pseudo Joker gang. And we see that his gloves actually apparently have some kind of a taser implement in them. When he grabs somebody with his hand, he can actually shock them to some extent. It looks like. Or he has some kind of a taser in his other hand or something. But we see that. We also see that the Batsuit is extremely bulletproof in this, a lot more than the Christian Bale version. Because we actually see Robert Pattinson at the end of this, close to the end of the trailer. There's a scene where he's walking through this dark hallway, and we only see him when we see muzzle flashes from firearms. And at the end of it, it looks like a couple of guys with some submachine guns are using it on full auto, and they just blast his torso with it, and it appears to not even phase him. And then he proceeds to go forward and just dismantle them. Which, again, I like it when Batman is shown to be this kind of menacing figure. I never really enjoyed the whole Robin thing. Maybe that's just me. But I never really enjoyed the idea of sidekicks for the most part. And seeing Batman kind of doing stuff on his own and the brutality of his early years is very, very entertaining. And I always kind of enjoyed that whenever they kind of went that route with the movies. Kind of why the warehouse scene in Batman v Superman is probably my favorite scene in that movie. But we see that. We see some shots, like I said, we see some shots of Zoe Kravitz. She never is in like a full Catwoman costume. She's kind of in this leather onesie most of the time, with some high heels and stuff on. And again, we never really see her wear like the cat suit, quote unquote, or at least not the ears and stuff like that. She's mostly, she wears a mask at one point, a ski mask, which we also saw in the previous trailer. We also see more of her interactions with Robert Pattinson's Batman. We have a few shots where she's asks him, who is he under the mask, that kind of thing. And it's obvious she's not wearing a mask, so he obviously knows who she is. Which I guess is kind of going with the idea of how it worked somewhat in the animated series, where Selina Kyle didn't know that Bruce Wayne and Batman were the same person. But Batman knew that Selina Kyle was Catwoman. You also saw in this trailer a really, really good scene near the end of it of an extended version of the chase that he has with the Penguin. In the Batmobile. We also see some extra shots of the Batmobile, which, by the way, the initial shots of the Batmobile that we saw, the screenshots and stuff like that, made it look kind of like, okay, it's just kind of like a souped up sports car. But then you add in that jet in the back, and the scene that they have in this where it's actually really funny where Colin Farrell's Penguin thinks that he's lost Batman, and it's just like a flame, like a fireball behind him. He's like, I got him. And then he looks back, and you just see the Batmobile flying out of this fireball, and the chase continues until it actually hits him and flips his car over. And the last shot of the trailer is Robert Pattinson in the bat suit, approaching him with this massive fireball in the background, and the Batmobile kind of turned to the side. I love that scene. That scene looked amazing. Um, as for some of the other stuff in the trailer, they don't really explain a whole lot, which again I'm fine with. All we know is that really Riddler has been doing things like Riddler. It seems like Riddler is doing things from inside prison, which is interesting because it's kind of like if anybody's familiar with the movie Law Abiding Citizen, with Gerard Butler and Jamie Foxx, it feels a bit like that, where Riddler is still has set up all these elaborate traps and stuff for Batman, but he set them up beforehand before the police wound up catching him. And now that he's in jail, Batman has to save the people, but Riddler wants to test him. We also see a shot where it looks like Robert Pattinson is walking through this room, and it's an above shot of him directly down at the floor, and we see this like chalk, or it's either chalk or painted. I think it's chalk, but it's this little outline, and it basically has this little spider web of things that have all these different connections on them, kind of like how you when you have when you have a case with police where you have the cork board where like, okay, this is connected to this and this is connected to this, where you string the wire together over thumbtacks and stuff like that. It felt a lot like that. The other thing that we kind of also saw in this trailer was we saw a few little snippets of Andy Serkis as Alfred, and a few sound bites from him as well, which I did like. I thought that was a nice touch. We didn't really get any Jim Gordon in this, but I'm fine with that. We got a decent amount of him in the first trailer. I don't think they need to harp on that because I don't think he's a huge character in regards to this film. I think he's more like a main support. Then the other thing is that when we actually see some of the stuff in the trailer, like it feels oddly enough like almost the whole movie is kind of seen through almost like a brown filter. And I don't know if that was on purpose or not. I know Nolan used to love to use the blue filter with some of his movies, especially Dark Knight. But this seems like it was kind of like brown, or maybe it was just kind of the way that they chose to film it for whatever reason, the way that it was filmed. But it looks very kind of down and dirty. We have a lot of shots. We have a kind of an interesting shot at the end where Batman looks like he's either been blown up or he's been covered in mud or something like that. Like he's filthy, he's covered in dirt, and he's just kind of looking up at something. We see also another shot in there too of the bat signal, which is another fun one, and we do have a voiceover line with that from Pattinson where he's saying, it's not just a signal, it's a warning. There's a lot of really good and interesting imagery in this, and I really liked it. The music also I liked too, and it's kind of the same music that was with the first trailer, except it's a bit more, it ramps up a bit more. I like this trailer a bit more than the first one because it does ramp itself up very well, and the climax is very good with that car chase scene. The only thing that I'm kind of worried about is that they gave away a little bit too much in terms of some of the major action set pieces. But again, we didn't really see much from the third act, at least not from what I could tell. Most of the stuff that we saw in this was probably from the first and second acts. But I did really like the trailer. The music was good. It didn't give away too many story elements, so it didn't commit the cardinal sin of trailers. But I really liked it, and I'm actually really looking forward to this movie. Now that it is coming out in early 2022. But I want to know what you guys think. Are you excited for the Batman? Are you not? Do you think that Robert Pattinson will make a good Batman? Do you want to see this movie? Put your thoughts in the comments below. As usual, I like to read them. I will also link the second trailer in the description below if anybody would like to watch that who hasn't seen it. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button to subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you